welcome back, everybody, to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And we are back once again for another movie with another guest as we look at and discuss the themes of 2012's Les Miserables with none other than Alejandra Escutia Angulo. And Alejandra hasn't been here for a while. I want to say since episode 13, and I will check that to be completely honest because I probably should have done that. But yeah, it's been a long time since she's been here, and I'm really happy to have her back because I really enjoyed the Inglourious Basterds episode that we did, and I think that it was an incredible episode, and we had a lot of fun. But I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna actually let her introduce herself again. So. Alejandra, go ahead and tell the people. Well, reintroduce yourself to the people who don't know you from episode 7. By the way, that was episode 7.
Right. Well, hello. I'm Alejandra. You already know that. I was here for the episode on Inglourious Basterds, and it was a lot of fun. And hopefully, this time it will be a less noisy episode from my part. And it is, of course, one of my big hobbies and passions to talk about musical theater. So finally got a chance to do it, and I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It had been a really long time since I've seen this movie, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of apprehensive. I was like, I think I remember loving this movie when it came out. And I said, oh man, I hope it doesn't change because, obviously the conversation has changed on Tom Hooper as of late. And I said, oh man, I really hope that this isn't bad. And I was pretty apprehensive when I rewatched the film, but I'm glad to say that I'm going to have a really fun time talking with you today about this movie. If the audio would just figure itself out right now. But
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people's perceptions changed on Tom Hooper, especially after the movie that should not be named.
The good old cat.
The Cats film. God, why did he do that? Why would you do that anyway? We're not going to talk about that today. No. Thank God. But yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, that episode 7. This is the last time you've been here since episode 7. Obviously, I'm gonna be real honest here. I didn't plan for you to come back for another episode, but we had some slots be taken out, and I said I really liked our conversation on Inglourious Basterds, so I wanted to bring you back again. And I'm really happy because I think the movie that we're gonna be discussing today is pretty interesting thematically, and we don't really get to talk about a lot of musical theater in here.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you? Musical theater is great.
Well, you can't get mad at me. People don't choose the movie. When I go by what people choose, okay? I did have somebody who wanted to do a Repo the Genetic Opera, though. They wanted to do Repo the Genetic Opera, and I said, no, thank you. Not again.
Oh, God, that movie, no.
Yeah.
No. I mean, well, okay. Here's the thing. I get it. I get why people don't like to talk about movie musicals because I feel like there is like a really strong stigma around musical theater films, in the sense that the first classical movie musicals, they were like very cheesy, very cheerful and happy, and kind of corny and a little dumb, and a lot of special effects and Technicolor, and I guess nowadays people are not really into that anymore. But musicals have changed a lot in the course of maybe 40 years, 45 years. And they are a lot more deep and profound than they used to be before. Not that they weren't, but they were still, like I said, a little cheesy. But now they are not anymore because people have this perception of musicals as being very happy and shiny and beautiful, and everything has a happy ending. And a lot of musicals from that time don't have happy endings, but it has increased towards the beginning of the 21st century. So yeah, there is a difference, and those are the musicals that I like. Not that I don't like the classic ones, but the modern musical is really for me where it's at, because it touches a lot of different subjects that perhaps older musicals didn't touch on, and I think Les Mis is one of them. So I really love it, really do.
Yeah, I mean, because last time you were here, of course, your movie that you had recommended to people was Dancer in the Dark, which I really believe is one of the prime examples of that, of this new age of musicals that are more, they're more, what's the word I'm trying to say here? They're way more preoccupied with the nuances and how profound they are than spectacle.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think in the case of that movie, it's relevant that they are comparing it, or at least including in the narrative, they are including the sound of music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge contrast between Dancer in the Dark and the Sound of Music, because at the end of the Sound of Music, you get this happy family fighting Nazism and just being happy all over. And then in Dancer in the Dark, I don't want to I don't want to spoil it, but it's definitely not that. It's pretty tough to watch,
Yeah,
and that's why I love it. You know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
love musicals that make me cry.
Oh yeah, me too. And that's why musicals like this, like I also have a sweet spot in my heart for Moulin Rouge. I love that one. But when it comes to musicals, I really want to discuss on this show. I think about this movie, this one, Dancer in the Dark. I mean Moulin Rouge just for because I love that movie so much, but there's a lot more beyond the surface to discuss when it comes to Les Mis than possibly not the Sound of Music, but like something else, like Chicago, maybe Chicago, like Chicago isn't as profound as Les Mis is.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think like just in recent times, people are a bit reluctant to the concept of a movie musical because many movie adaptations of musicals haven't been as successful as they used to be. And I think Les Mis came to sort of break with that. And I think that it really fits with Tom Hooper's style of filmmaking, because what we had seen before or what we saw after, like, for example, Danish Girl or The King's Speech, in those movies, you can see that he's really interested in like realism, like capturing the realism of a scene,
Mm-hmm.
of emotions and all that sort of thing. And I think, for example, now that you mentioned Moulin Rouge, that movie is a whole acid trip. I mean, the costumes and the scenes and everything is crazy and shiny and glittery, and it's a full fantasy. But in the case of Les Mis, you don't really get to have that, because the story is not about like, look how happy we are here in France. Like, it's not about that. Obviously, it's very different than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the stage production captures that, and I think Tom Hooper did a good job in transposing those things from the stage musical onto the movie, especially in the sets. I think it's a beautifully made movie. I think it looks incredible. And I think it really, really captures that feeling.
Yeah. So before we can actually get into this stuff, because we are kind of getting into it a little bit, but before we go ahead and get into it, I gotta ask like the most basic ass question: how are you doing, and how's quarantine been treating you? Because I haven't talked to you in like at least here on the show since episode 7, so it's like a whole last 22 episodes later. So how has it been over there with you?
Oh, God. Well,
That
it's
just
a
is,
whole thing. Uh,
that describes it really
it's
well.
a whole thing. I've been in, yeah, I mean, I've been in my house since March 24th. So, I mean, we're hanging on, I think.
Yeah.
It's not as messy as it is in other places, the USA.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we are doing pretty fine.
I'll go ahead and take that flag for sure. But it's not. It's mostly Texas, Florida, Arizona, and yeah, the three stooges, the three big idiots of the USA. That they seem to not want to get their shit together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I know. Like, it's like that that Harry Potter meme when it's like, how is it that every time something happens, it's always you three, and it's just Florida, Arizona, and Texas?
I, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's just something in the water that they're giving us here in Arizona, in what's it called, Texas, Arizona, and Florida. But I'm glad that you're doing well. You know, have you been catching up on any movies as of late? Anything you've been watching that's been kind of taking over the time, or has the academics been pretty much consuming you?
Well, back when the semester started, I was watching movies because I had the time to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching mostly TV shows. I watched Avatar like 5 times. The series, not the movie with the blue people. Uh, and I really like it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad that you didn't watch the what's it called the what's it called, the movie with the blue people, or the movie from M Night. I'm glad that that wasn't the case, because I was gonna about to ask you, like,
Oh
hey,
no.
what kind of cynical person are you that you want to be watching the M Night film? But yeah, no, I'm glad everything is doing well. Everyone's doing well over there with you, and you're okay. Uh, we have not had the pleasure of introducing you guys to the director known as Tom Hooper, so I need to go ahead and do that. And I'm hoping that what's it called, that my audio stays well throughout this, because I am noticing that it's decreasing again. I think it's Zoom. It's like I've never done Zoom before, and it's always done this before, and it's like doing this right now. It's never done this with Hangouts or Discord, so we'll see what happens, and if it decreases again, I might have to stop the recording here and invite you into my Discord server. If that's fine with you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and introduce you guys to the filmmaker known as Tom Hooper. Of course, we know him as the Academy Award, what's it called, a nominated director. I mean, you look at this on paper, man, you look at Tom Hooper, and, wow, I mean, the man really kind of had himself a big, 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 what's it called, a hype train coming with him since since 2010, when he, of course, directs the Oscar winning film for Best Picture, The King's Speech. And before that, of course, Hooper was doing a lot of British television shows and a lot of other films in Europe. But it wasn't until the King's Speech that his name really started to become synonymous with cinema here. I mean, we were all talking about the King's Speech in 2010. Some people for positive reasons, some people for negative reasons. But I'm not going to go into that. But of course, and then in 2012, he makes Les Mis. He makes this film, which becomes the first musical since 2002's Chicago to be nominated for Best Picture. And he gets nominated for Best Director as well. And then, of course, in 2015, he makes what's it called, The Danish Girl, which I believe to be one of the greatest movies of all time. I think it's an incredibly well-made film, and it's a film that never fails to absolutely crush my heart. And it's such an incredible movie. But then he also goes on in 2019 to do 2 episodes of his Dark Materials for HBO, really good show. And then he makes Cats. And that's where we'll go ahead and stop, because, he also gets 2 Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Director and Worst Screenplay. So yeah, that's definitely quite the career for Tom Hooper. Tom Hooper. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do you fuck up so bad that you are like peaking, you're reaching up, and then all of a sudden you say, "Hey, we should make a Cats movie," and then you go ahead and make it. And not only that, but
Mhm.
also you watch the whole thing when it's done, and you say, "Yeah, this will go on theaters. Yeah, of course, people will watch it." And they won't think it's weird or creepy that cats have human faces. No one's gonna think about that.
Release the butthole cut, right? Release the butthole cut. Oh God! But yeah, this is quite the the career for Tom Hooper. We were having a conversation that, well, yo, where does Tom Hooper go after this? Like, really, like what? How do you recover from directing Cats? But we're not here to talk about Cats. We're here to talk about Les Mis. But yeah, I mean, Tom Hooper at 2015, when he directs The Danish Girl, I mean, he has quite the career behind him, and you really do kind of start seeing him prominent in the way that, wow, like this guy can really do no wrong. I mean, he's given us three really, really good movies, and two of those movies are Best Picture nominees, and one is a winner. So, I mean, the conversation around Tom Hooper was huge until, of course, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into this, and we're gonna talk about the Les Miserables 2012, and let's go ahead and get into this, my friends. So Les Mis is a musical film here, and I'm not gonna try to go off exactly by what Wikipedia says, because I try to go off what's it called, general information, right? Musical historical period film, and I'm glad that they put it here. This film is an epic. It's probably an epic in the most modern sense that we can think about that word when it comes to filmmaking, because this film is so grand in scale. Like, those set pieces are incredible. Like, you have no idea how surprised I was to find out that this was a 61 million budget. This looks like 100 to 150.
Yeah, I mean the sets are incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're incredible, and you're always seeing the scope of the film throughout this. You're just like, wow, how big does this get? And every scene seems to kind of keep bringing it and bringing it and bringing it to the table, and you're like, wow, like crap, like it's getting even better and even better here. So yeah, this film is based on the novel, which what's it called, led to the musical adaptation, of course, by the same name. And it stars none other than our beautiful Wolverine, right? Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe, Anne Hathaway, Amanda Seyfried, Eddie Redmayne, Helena Bonham Carter, and Sacha Baron Cohen. You have no idea how great it was to see Sacha in there. And I was like, oh, why do I just automatically see your face and I want to laugh because of Borat and all those silly movies he's made?
I know. I mean, and it's not the first musical he's been in. He was in the Sweeney Todd adaptation by Tim Burton. And I was very surprised to find that he actually did get like music and vocal training back before he was an actor. And then he got to be in Sweeney Todd, and then now here in Les Mis. And I had totally forgotten that he was in Les Mis until like a while ago when I watched it again. And I was like, oh yeah, he is in this thing. And I love him so much. I love that they casted him as this particular character that is just obviously the comic relief part of the show, but also has a very sort of dark part to his actions and his behavior. And I really love that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you knew this, but he was actually supposed to be Freddie Mercury in Borat, in Bohemian Rhapsody. But
oh
yeah, sadly, what's it called? He didn't like the whole direction that they were going to take the film, and I'm kind of glad, because him having to work with Bryan Singer was probably going to be a pain in the ass, like it was for what's his name, Rami Malek. So I was automatically, when I heard about that, I was like, why do I feel like I've heard him before, like singing and stuff? And then I watched this movie, and I'm like, oh, this is where he was at, that I remember him. I don't think I ever watched Sweeney Todd. I don't remember too well. But I know that this one, I was like, oh, yeah, he was in this. And I was just laughing the whole time, because I was like, I'm imagining Borat, Ali G, Bruno, and all those silly stuff he's done, but also like being so amazed by his range and his vocal performances.
Yeah, he was really good in it. And also, I think that whole scene where he's introduced, I find it very funny, because it's a mess of things, and you can see him like pickpocketing here and there, and then just hiding everything in a back room somewhere. And they have like classification of things. They have like a bucket for like glasses and eyes and things. And
Yeah.
I find it scene really, really funny. The way that it's that the inn is constructed and portrayed in the film, I feel like it's really, I want to say, accurate. Because, for example, like if you see that in the stage musical, is just obviously in the stage, and it has just, I don't know, chairs and tables and stuff. But here you are moving throughout all the rooms of the place, and you're seeing how he goes around into everyone's lives, picking up things and robbing them. I find that really, really funny.
It's hilarious. And I gotta say that's something that this time around I was able to, appreciate more. I was like, wow, I can't believe he was in this, and I was just so happy to see him. Like my eyes usually flare up when I see Sacha Baron Cohen, whether it's like his old films or like Who Is America doing his stuff on there with Showtime. So I was really happy. But yeah, I want to say, I'm going to say that I'm definitely not going to pronounce these names correctly. So you are the one who understands, how to pronounce these names a lot better than I do. So, what's his name? Hugh Jackman plays Jean Valjean, right?
Valjean, yeah.
Valjean? Yeah. So this film starts up in 1815, but most of the film is in the backdrop of the rebellion of 1832, which really does start the pavement for the revolution in France. And I gotta say that just kind of makes things a lot more interesting when you're looking at this, because you don't just have these stories of these characters, but these characters are so tied into the period of France at this time with the June Rebellion. So that's why I gotta really, really, really hand it off to Tom Hooper for being able to adapt this so correctly, because anybody can just create characters who are just there and not care about the environment in which these characters live. But he does it so well, where he ties it in really well with how the book and I'm pretty sure the stage musical know how to do it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think, well, the musical really does stray away from the book a little bit, because I mean the book is like 1,000 pages, and of course you're
Oof.
not gonna put everything in because the musical is already 3 hours long. So for making the movie and making it less than 3 hours long and still being able to go back to the book and to recover certain details. For example, the elephant that is
Mm-hmm.
in this square where the children live,
Yes.
that is a detail that is in the book and it's not in the musical, right? And I'm really glad they went back and recovered that. And also, for example, well, that scene where the army finally gets into the barricade and they kill everyone, and that scene, which I mean, it kills me every time I watched
Oh
it.
yeah.
I watch it when Grand Terra and Angel Ras die, and it's Aaron Tveit and George Blatkin,
Mm-hmm.
and they are standing there and they died together, and that scene really murders my heart. But it's also going back to the book, because in the musical and stage version is different, but here they are both together and they die, and it's so emotional and I love it so much. And I'm really glad also that the actors went to check out the book and see what their characters were supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be doing, and they got closer to the book, I think, than to the stage musical, maybe.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I really got to give them to that cast and crew for doing this so well. One of the first things I kind of wanted to talk about, and I think we did get into it a little bit more into a little bit, but I really wanted to highlight the barricades, just the whole way that set was kind of made, and really how, you really don't get the scope of this movie until they get to the barricades, and you're like, holy crap. Like they're making the hell out of these sets right here. They're really using it all to their advantage, and it's just, and everything from even the costume design is just so beautiful, and the makeup hairstyling that they've got in there too. Like those beginning shots, those beginning scenes with of course Anne Hathaway, and just the costume, what's it called, the dress that she's wearing is so beautiful, and just what's it called, also just the hairstyling, the makeup to look to make what's it called, Jean Valjean look so dirty and rugged, and in the beginning it's like there's just so much care and just care and respect for the source material in here, that you can really tell that Hooper is doing something, that he's making an adaptation that he really respects.
Yeah, for sure. I I don't know. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time,
Mm-hmm.
because precisely of how beautiful it looks. Everything, I mean, not beautiful in the sense that, oh, everything is gorgeous, but it's so beautifully made that
Mm-hmm.
everything sort of just falls into place,
Yeah.
and everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. it's time period accurate as far as I know. The
Mm-hmm.
clothes, the hair, the sets, everything is just perfect and incredible as it should be made. I think, and also from what I've seen other people say, and I think didn't they win like best makeup and
Mm-hmm.
or something like that?
Yeah, best
I think
makeup,
in the at the
hairstyling,
Oscars.
and best costume design as well. And I believe
Yeah,
best
yeah. There
sound
you go.
mixing, best sound mixing.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that makes sense too. But anyway, back to the visual part of the film. I feel it's definitely incredible, and the use of the light and the darkness and everything is just really reflecting like an internal journey in the characters that is already also going through with the songs, of course. So, for example, in this part where at the beginning of the movie, where Valjean has been caught stealing, and the police brings him back, and the priest cardinal guy, I don't know what is it, Monsignor or something.
Yeah.
He is like, yeah, no, I gave them to him, and he gives him even more, and it's like okay, and you can see light sort of just above Hugh Jackman's face,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see like he's very confused, but also he's just literally being uh, illuminated, you know. And I love that. And then the next part where he's singing this song where he has his full meltdown and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna start a new life, and the way the light comes in through like this chapel thing where he's in, and he's singing in front of the cross, and it's so touching and so moving. And I really really enjoy how this movie looks because it's just incredible. It really embodies what the characters are going
Yeah.
through.
And that's the thing, like you always bring up, like you brought up in the beginning, with musicals, it's always so, there's always this stigma behind it about like, oh, it's probably gonna look like pretty crappy, it's gonna look cheesy, it's gonna be happy and stuff. And like, yes, The Sound of Music is an incredibly visually breathtaking movie. I mean, every set on The Sound of Music is like well constructed as well, but you never really expect in a musical to be like an epic like this is. Like nothing in this scale. Like you never expect things to be this grand. I mean, this is on par with sets from, Kurosawa's Ran. That's just the first one that comes to my mind. A great Japanese film, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like in awe because I've never seen this done before in musicals before.
Yeah, because for example with Chicago, like I feel they really went with the um I don't know, with framing the movie in between a stage thing. Like they are not hiding the fact that this was originally meant to be on a stage, because they are mixing both the realist aspect of the film, like the dialogue bits and everything, with the songs. And you can see the characters actually being at like in their imagination. They are singing in salons and they are singing in these big performance spaces, and they are mixing both. But here, even though they are singing, you see that the reality around them is like very gritty and dirty and rugged and tough
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Like even at the scene, for example, in the factory,
Mm-hmm.
where we see Anne Hathaway for the first time, and they are like, yeah, very neat with their uniforms and everything. But then you see the surroundings and it's a very empty room, and the walls are like scratched down and it's all very rough and tough.
Yeah.
And I really like that about the environment that they're in, because yeah, I mean, I had into the movie where they are, for example, protesting outside the house of this general, and you see that the house is a very luxurious place, but
Mm-hmm.
the reality of what's happening outside, the protest and the rioting and everything, is surrounded by these poor houses that are exactly in the middle of the square, surrounded by a fence. So they are sort of out of sight, but still there. So, it's like it's still really prevalent that this is not a fantasy world. It's not going to have a happy, bright a cheerful ending. It's going to be way more than that.
Yeah, and like I said, like they're like you're saying, it's like there's people protesting outside in luxurious house, and what's it called, people in this luxurious house, and you throughout this film, you're kind of always reminded like these people are suffering hard. I mean, Fantine, this woman who what's it called gets kicked out of the covenant, right? Covenant. I don't know how to say. Gets kicked out of it because of her illegitimate child, right?
Yeah.
And then she resorts to selling her teeth, and she becomes a prostitute. And it's like, you're constantly reminded of the weight of this, what's it called, of this environment in France at the moment, and how the people are really suffering, and how, poverty is rampant. And it's like, you think that this will end in like its most beautiful fashion ever, but it's not. Even though the film looks so beautifully constructed, the ugliness is right deep inside of it because of the society that they're living in at the time.
Yeah, of course. And also, well, I mean, I've seen the stage musical like 3 times already, and I feel like they do a good job at capturing that precisely, but because it's stage, of course they have limitations. But here in the movie, where you can just build a set and then go to some other set and do something else, you have like a wider possibility, I guess, for portraying these spaces. And the movie does that incredibly well, I feel, because precisely because of that, but also because they have to transmit all these things that are happening, that are being said through song already. For example, I was thinking in that scene with the prostitutes that there is a bit where they, towards the ending of the song, where they sing in a particular melody, and then that same melody is repeated towards the end of the movie, where all the women, after the barricade was raided and everyone dies, all the women are literally cleaning the blood of the street, and they sing in the same melody. So we already have like this particular motif in there that is, I don't know, maybe because I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that maybe it's them reacting to how the men in the world around them behave, and it only leaves them sad and even more hopeless than before. Because, for example, for the prostitutes in the beginning, they are singing, they say like they have a lot of lovers, but they never stay for long. And that is, of course, because the whole of the song is sang about men. Yeah, it's like, oh, they come, they do this, and then they leave. And then in turning towards the end here, they are also like, they watch their brothers, their friends dying in the barricade, and now they have to clean up their mess, and then nothing happened. So I feel like to portray that sort of like hopelessness and that sadness of the world that they are being left with behind, I think is great that the scenery and the camera movements and everything is able to portray, especially the feeling that the motifs in the music are transmitting.
Well, we're going to continue our conversation on Les Mis when we return from commercial break. But in the meantime, please listen to these wonderful, wonderful commercials made by some wonderful people. And we will see you guys after the break. Hey, I'm Alejandra Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, if it's from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT, nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Tune in.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Momenimo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the GamerCore podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is a interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Raul, and I'm one of the hosts of the Nerdy Chicano Show. The Nerdy Chicano Show is a comedic show brought to you by Luis and myself, and it comes to you all every Sunday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. You can catch it a day early by becoming a Patreon and supporting us at the $1 tier. And I don't really know how to explain this show other than it's fun. We get to talk about whatever we want, and it helps you move on in the week. So if you want to catch the Nerdy Chicano Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. All you got to do is go to anchor.fm/thenerdcore, and we'll see you there, baby. Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore Podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
Welcome everybody back from break, and we are back again for our wonderful discussion on the 2012's Les Miserables. And I just want to say thank you guys for listening to those commercials if you did, but if you didn't, remember that you can find all those shows on the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. All those shows aren't running at the moment, except for the Gamer Core just decided to come back, and we brought it back, and we're doing a lot of cool stuff on there. So, make sure you guys are on top of that and listening to that, and hope you guys go and drop a rate and review on your Apple Podcast page, or your Stitcher page. But I'm not forcing anybody at the moment to record other shows if they can't because of the pandemic. But, there's still some shows that are running right now, like the main show and the live show. But yeah, take a shot for every time I said show there. But either way, rate, review, and go check out those episodes on that other feed. This show is also running on that feed, but it's on a delay. So if you're listening on this feed, which is the Cinema Condition feed, you are going to be caught up for the season finale. If you're catching up on the Nerdcore podcast feed, you are really delayed. Like, you guys just got episode 22 right now, as of this recording day. So you guys want to be listening on this feed. But either way, go and check out those shows, and let's get back into our conversation here. All right, Alejandra. So we're back, and we're going to go ahead and do this. And I wanted to bring up a conversation because you said, hey, we need to talk about the singing in here. Of course we have to, because there's a lot of numbers in here that are just so amazing. Of course, the One Day More scene is one of my favorites as well. But my favorite is, of course, the Anne Hathaway song that she does. I Dreamed a Dream, right? That's the name of the song?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the singing, I also saw there was a lot of controversy about the singing because, like I said before in the conversation we were having, that they were singing live during the filming of the movie, and they had to come up with very creative ways, maybe, of solving issues. Like, for example, in that scene where Samantha Barks is singing On My Own, and it's raining, and they had microphones around the set to capture her voice. And because it was raining, they were only capturing the sound of the water falling on the microphones. So that wasn't really working. And they had to come up with something else in order to record her voice and to make it stand out above the sounds of the rain. And I think it's interesting because there is a combination of actors in this film. You have the Hollywood actors, you have Hugh Jackman and Anne Hathaway and Amanda Seyfried and Eddie Redmayne. But you also have actors that have been trained in musical theater, like Samantha Barks and Sacha Baron Cohen. Well, I don't know if he was in musical theater or just singing, but professionally trained in singing. And Aaron Tveit and most of the Barricade Boys, they made their start in musical theater. And that combination is very interesting because you can see the differences in the ways they perform. And for example, Hugh Jackman, because he's like the main figure in this film, I think he is fine. I like his acting. I love Hugh Jackman, and I think he's a really nice dude. But his singing is just, it's not perfect. And but in the case of this movie, I don't think it had to be perfect. Because, again, the movie is just very emotional, very gritty and rough. And I think it makes sense. But there are some parts where it doesn't really feel like it should be like that. For example, in the opening numbers, when we have Look Down and then... the hell is the name of the other song? Well, the one he sings after the Monsignor sends him away, right? He is singing from a very deep place of anger and confusion and angst, emotion, the whole thing. And it makes sense that he's maybe missing some notes or crying while he's singing or doing that kind of thing. But then in that scene in the barricade where everyone is sleeping and he decides that he has to care for Marius and save him. And that song is supposed to be like the emotional solo part of that portion of the musical. And it sounds a little odd, at least for me, because I have listened to a lot of different productions of Les Mis. And I listen to the recordings and I know the voices of these people. But then I listen to Hugh Jackman in the movie and I'm like, oh, man. It's not awful. It's just fine. And I think for that scene, it had to be a little more than fine. But, and also I feel like people hated Rosencrow and he's singing because he sounded a little bit like Kermit.
Oh, so I don't usually laugh on this show because not a lot of people make me laugh that hard, but yeah, he kind of does sound like Kermit.
I mean,
Oh,
doesn't he? He definitely does.
he does. He
But the thing
100%
is
does.
that, yeah, because for example, like, I mean, he has a band, like a rock band or something, some kind of band, and he's the vocalist in there, so he can sing. But the thing is that he can't sing musical theater, and it's a very different thing because when you train to be a pop singer or a rock singer or a country singer, you have very specific training for that particular genre of music. But if you go, and it's the same if you go to sing musical theater. So the fact that Russell Crowe is trained to sing rock does not make him train to sing musical theater, particularly this role that Javert has incredible songs, amazing songs. But then you put Russell Crowe on top of some building singing about stars with his Kermit voice. And then, what's going on with that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to him? And then you make him sing live. Not only that, but you make him sing live there with not an orchestra to accompany him, but just a pianist playing the track while he sings and then adding the orchestra on top. So you drown out his voice in parts it shouldn't be drowned out. And I find it really, really messy, although many people are torn in about his performance in this movie because, I mean, his singing does sound like Kermit, but it's good Kermit.
Yeah, it's a good Kermit. It's not like a really muffled version of Rainbow Connection, but it's still good Kermit. I'm not gonna lie, I'll agree with you there. I don't think that Russell Crowe's singing in this film is is like the standout. Whereas some of those kids on this set on this film are great at singing. Fucking Anne Hathaway just blowing it away with hers. Amanda Seyfried does a pretty good job at it, but Russell Crowe is kind of like, dude, yeah, like this isn't the best, but yeah, I agree with you with Hugh Jackman, and I don't know how many other roles he's done with musical, but Jackman in here, like, it is not the best singing, but I think it does kind of fit the tone of the film and how gritty it needs to be, so that's why I was kind of able to overlook it, but yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that this film, like the singing in here, it had to be, it can be excused for it being a little bad, but it what's it called? It definitely wouldn't hold up in another one.
Yeah, I agree. Because, for example, I don't know. For example, the Phantom of the Opera adaptation, that was a whole other situation. The singing. I mean, they cast Gerard Butler as the Phantom, and he's not a singer, of course.
No.
And they cast him to play one of the most demanding roles in the world of musical theater, and they make him scream half of his lines instead of singing them, and then you are just left with a mess. And I think Phantom of the Opera is particularly one of those musicals where you really can't get away with not being a good singer, precisely because the point of the film is that these people are good singers. So if you put Gerard Butler to scream and grunt his lines, then it's gonna be a mess, which it was. And in here, I think you can sort of work your way through that and ignore it and not let it affect the way that you perceive the film, for example. So yeah. And in the case of Anne Hathaway, I believe, from what I read a while ago, that her mother played Fantine in a stage version of the show. And so she learned from there, I assume, how to sing the song properly as it's supposed to be sung on stage. And then she adapted it into her acting because she realized that she couldn't just sing that song and not cry. And that's what she did. And it sounds fine. Because it's not supposed to sound perfect. Oh, no. So I think it works. It works great, and she was really amazing in that movie. And I like that she just disappears towards like 20 minutes into the film and then comes back in the end,
Oh
because
yeah,
that scene always breaks me. The final scene is always fantastic, and I love it.
yeah. And God, I can't remember what was the name of that one. What's it called? The what's it called? The song where with the girl in the rain. What was it again?
On my own.
On my own. I like that scene a lot. That song was really good, and just the way those emotions are kind of pouring out of this singing, because she's really good at it too, and just it's like coming out. It's like, and like those sign like I love him, and it's like, oh, it's just completely kind of tearing you apart inside, and it's just the genius of the way that they use the singing in this movie, and also just the music, how beautifully crafted the orchestral music is, and how it
Yeah,
really
of
feels.
course.
It never feels out of place here.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's specifically because I feel most of it is sung through. So there aren't many dialogues in between that can maybe throw you out of the loop of the music, because everything is incorporated in the songs. And I think that's great. It's a great way to not distract your audience with them thinking, wait, why are they singing? You know, they weren't singing before. Why are they doing it now? So being it sung through, you can get through that and just not distract the people with that thought, I think.
Yeah. God, it had been a really long time since I've seen Phantom of the Opera, but I was like, why'd you have to remind me Gerard Butler was in that?
I know, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You're telling
But,
me,
you know, I had to bring him up. It's a good example.
it's a good example, and you're 100% right, because you know, like you're saying, any other musical, these singers or these actors would, you know, it'd feel out of place, but right here it does make a difference because of the way that the musical is kind of built around being so gritty and so natural and so very in the moment. And that's why I think that, you know, that's why I love Anne Hathaway's scene so much, is because I don't really see that as like it's something that's like staged. Like my brain just completely shuts off, and I'm like, oh, I'm just seeing this woman just absolutely break down in tears and just reminiscing to wanting to be with that person who she loves so much, but at the same time trying to be free from this terrible poverty that just keeps killing her and killing her slowly. It's like, you know, this movie just has a way to kind of construct the atmosphere that it has. And I think that that's why this movie just works so damn well.
Yeah. And also because I think, well, in the musical, she sings that song right after she's fired from the factory. And, you know, the foreman kicks her out and she's left there in the street and she sings that song. And then comes the whole other sequences, right? But in here, the changing of the order of that song, like the placement of it and moving it after, I think it makes a little bit more sense.
Oh, it's much more powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely way more powerful like this. And I really like that they did that. It's a detail that I really clung on to when I watched the film, and I was like, wait, that was in another place, but somehow here it made me cry more than before.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it worked.
Yeah, and you said that you know that Tom Hooper made her sit down on the floor while doing that one. I was like, God, that must be so uncomfortable for her. But at the same time, it makes for like one of the best shots in this film.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think, well, we have to talk about the children in this film because, damn, I mean, you know, Isabel Allen, she's so cute, and her playing Cosette when she was young, it's so heartbreaking. It's so sad to see her there, like all covered in soot and sweeping the floors. I mean, it's very sad. And I really like her, and I really like her singing. And then later on in the film, when Daniel Hawthorne comes in and he as Gavroche, and I love him. I love that character, and I love him so much. And another thing that I found funny is that him as sort of the poor kid in the film has a very distinct Cockney accent when no one else does, which is a choice, but you know, a nice one, I think.
Oh, it's also a choice to give all of these actors a British accent when they're portraying French people. So, you know,
Yeah, except for Sacha Baron Cohen, who somehow does have a French accent.
yeah. But you know, it's like it's stuff that you try to ignore, just like in Star Wars when everybody has a what's it called, a British accent up there in space, but they're far away from Britain as possible. But yeah, and
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
you just have to live to ignore these things because they just seem so silly at best. But yeah, and these kids are incredible, and just my heart breaks every single time I had to watch that when the kid gets shot multiple times, and you're like, oh crap, no,
Oh my god.
yeah, and just
Yes.
keep crawling and singing, and he's crawling, and boom, boom, and it's like, oh no, and of course the last one that
But
hits
you know
him.
what's worse?
What's worse?
What broke me is when Russell Crowe walks in, and after everyone's dead, and they have all the bodies lined up on the floor, and he sees him. He sees Gavroche on the ground, and he puts his medal on him. And I was at that moment, I was like, "Oh my god!" I was literally bawling my eyes out. I was sobbing. It was terrible, but I loved it.
Yeah, and it's also the what's it called. There's just so many moments like that in this movie. Just complete. Like my heart was what's it called. My heart was really tied up in a knot with On My Own. Like I was like, oh my god, just please don't make me cry here. There's just so many moments here that's just so emotionally attaching. That it's such an emotional attachment to you, and it's just incredibly profound and beautiful the way that it's just crafted. And you know, this film, and I didn't have a lot of themes here. I think one of the biggest themes that this film kind of brings up is just you know, this whole idea of compassion, and how kind of we treat each other, and how, you know, sadly the systems that we grow up in are the ones that kind of put us on this idea that we are above people others. But you know, these poor people who are fighting for their freedoms are just as important as the people who are living in those luxurious houses, basically eating the bread that those people don't even have the chance to eat. And it's just these people trying to have like some sort of compassion while somebody is just bloodthirsty in the background trying to kill Jean Valjean. But you know, at the end, he grows some sort of compassion that he rather not kill him, and he just kills himself instead.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the novel is a very philosophical and deep work of literature, and I think the musical did a good job at transposing those elements from the novel into the show. Because, well, yeah, like you said, we have this element of compassion and how it's related to misery, you know, like in how many possible ways can people be miserable? Like you can be poor, but you can also be poor and evil, or you can be not poor but evil, and that's still misery. So I think it's just all really closely related to one another, and it's also shown through the music and the motifs that they use, because almost every character has a particular motif that they use when something happens. Like, for example, in the movie, they did that with Javert standing on like a very high building and walking over the edge, right? And we can see that in Stars, where he's just like walking along to the edge of the building and singing about how he's gonna do what he's supposed to do and use justice and God and everything. And then in the part where he jumps, we see him taking the same steps and singing about how his entire worldview has been shattered and he doesn't know what he's supposed to do, and all he thinks he has left is just his life, and then he kills himself. So I think it's a really powerful work. And then it really translated really well into the musical.
Yeah, it really does. And I was like, God, man, a suicide scene has never seemed so beautiful for me, because just the way he just throws himself into the ocean, and just how beautifully those waves look like crashing into the mountain. It's like, crap, dude. Like, why does this look so beautiful, but it's so sad?
Yeah, I know.
I,
And also, well, I mean, I think I could have done without the crack sound when he hits his head on the thing. I
oh yeah,
think that's a
100%.
bit unnecessary, but you know.
Yeah, I think that's completely unnecessary. But I mean, go off, Tom Hooper, go off. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was there's just that strong feeling of compassion and just this, and it's not just with with how they're treating these people, but also just Jean Valjean taking care of Fatine's illegitimate child and just caring for it, and just at that final scene when she's like thanking him so much for what she's done for, taking care of that child for her. And it's like, there's just this feeling of like these people who are supposed to be seen as dirty and terrible and ugly, you know they suffer so much, but there's so much compassion and love in their hearts to just want to do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because for example, the guys at the barricade, I mean, in the book and also well in the musical, they were all like from rich, high class families. They were educated, and they knew that they had to do something for others who couldn't.
Hmm.
So, for example, when we see at that scene in the protest, when Marius's grandpa comes out of the carriage and he's like, "You're bringing shame to our family," and he's like, "Well, I don't care," and he keeps on with protesting, and he gives up on his title because they don't mention it in the show, but he was a baron, so he has a title, and he's giving up his money, he's giving up all that he had previously in order to go and fight for people who are less lucky than himself. So I guess it is really important for all of them to sort of try and go outside and do something and change something, which I think is one of the reasons why Do You Hear the People Sing is a very popular song at like protests
Hmm.
and stuff. I was watching clips of it being used in like Hong Kong and in other places like a lot of Middle Eastern countries.
Hmm.
So you can really see that people are actually catching on the subject of wanting to do something and going outside and doing it.
Yeah, yeah, and just abandoning these positions that they have, and just being able to go out there and really, using it for good. And I have seen it, that's why I was like, why does this song sound so familiar? Because like I'm telling you, I haven't seen this movie in years. And I was like, wait, I think I was seeing videos from Hong Kong of them singing this song. And I was like, it's incredible in the way that just this kind of holds this universal theme of just, and I know it's so cliche to say, but just doing the right thing.
Yeah, of course. I think it's a very universal musical in itself. I mean, I think people like it because they can relate to at least one part of it.
Hmm.
And of course, it makes the work of Victor Hugo more accessible to more people because the book is, again, very long and it's a little hard to read at parts. But the musical, I think it's a good adaptation of it, and it really embodies the feeling that the written work has.
Hmm. All right. Do you have anything else you want to kind of cover before we go ahead and leave here?
Okay. Well, I want to say that Eddie Redmayne was amazing in this film,
Oh
and
yeah,
I love him. I love him so much.
he's
He's
incredible.
incredible for someone who didn't really have like singing training. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's really great. And it's also how he's able to transform with all the the makeup and the in the costume. And it's like I didn't notice. I was like, whoa, wait, hold on, that's Eddie Redmayne. I was like, wow. But he also ends up doing such a great job in A Danish Girl next, and it's like Tom Hooper obviously saw something in Eddie Redmayne to keep working with him, and I was just. I was so surprised. I think this was the first time I ever watched Eddie. When I first watched this film in 2012, I think this was like the first time I'd seen Eddie Redmayne. So I was just so excited because I was like, who is this guy and why is he so good? And I just wanted to keep going into it and kind of keep watching more of his work. And when Danish Girl comes out, I'm like, God, this guy's incredible. He's amazing, and I love his work. So he really does shine so bright in this film.
Yeah, he's such an amazing actor. I love him so much. And Linda Bonham Carter, it's also not her first musical because she was also in Sweeney Todd. But again, there the songs were recorded, and here she had to sing live, which is obviously much harder for someone who isn't really, a trained singer. So I think she did a pretty amazing job at it too. I think she was great, and I really loved her playing this role. She was so funny, and her working with Sacha Baron Cohen was incredible. I really loved the two of them. Whenever they were on screen together, they were all amazing. I loved them.
Yeah. So that is our conversation on 2012's Les Miserables. And I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Alejandra, it was a lot of fun, even though we had a little bit of a hiccup in the beginning because of the audio, but everything went smoothly and we did such a great job on this.
Yes, it was great. No one is ever gonna know what happened in the beginning with the audio. We're fine. It's a
fine.
secret.
It's a secret, right? It's just gonna be you and me. That's it. Nobody else knows. But when Alejandra was here, she did her recommendation and her pick for season 2. We had to do this off air, but I'll go ahead and tell you guys right now because she's back. So In the Heights was sadly delayed because of COVID and them not being able to finish production. So what happened was that Alejandra's pick for season 2 would end up becoming her pick for season 3, if we even make it to season 3. At the state of the world right now, I don't know if we make it to 2021. Yeah. So yeah. So
Yeah, for sure.
In the Heights is her season 3 pick, but she ended up picking, and I'll go ahead and let her announce it. She already told it to me. Alejandra, tell them what movie you're coming back for season 2.
Yeah, I picked West Side Story, the original 1962 version. Yeah, so I'm very excited. Again, another musical. You can tell I'm a nerd. I love musicals, but yeah, it's gonna be that.
I'll let you do all the musicals you want, dude. You're fine. Don't you worry about it. Look, this show is more so about the themes and stuff. It doesn't matter if we like the movie or not, but sometimes we get those movies that we're like, I can't not talk about how much I love this movie.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have a lot of conflicted feelings about West Side Story, but now that the new the remake of it is coming out, and it hasn't been canceled yet.
Yeah.
It's coming out in December, I think. So, hopefully we can get to that before the remake comes out so we can have a clean, sort of slightly unbiased conversation about the original.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What's it called? Season 2 will be starting in about November, guys, and then we'll be going on after that. But we've got a lot of episodes planned out. We've got 45 films being chosen for the second season, so I'm really excited to see where we go with season 2 of the Cinema Condition. But as always, I want to tell you guys, go and check out Les Mis on Netflix. It was uploaded there. And I'm really mad because I had to pay for the film to rent it. And then I just found out today that it was on Netflix. It just got put on Netflix. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, dude. Really? I could have saved $6. But it's all good. You can guys go check it out on Netflix. And I don't know, have you seen the newest version, the 2019 version?
Oh, the series or what?
No, Amazon Prime did a Amazon did a Les Mis, what's it called, the film last year. Look, 2019, and I know this is gonna take up time here, but I don't think it's the what's it called, the actual story, but it's kind of adapting it in a different way. But yeah, it's Stefan joined the anti-crime brigade of Montfamil. He meets his new teammates, Chris and Guada, and discovers the tensions between the different groups in the district. Yeah. So I don't know I haven't watched this.
Oh, wow. No,
I've never watched this, and it's on Amazon. I was wondering because I was like, should I watch it? Should I waste my time with this? But I mean, if you haven't watched it, I'll probably just wait for your thoughts and then watch it myself.
Sure, yeah, because I didn't know this existed. So
Yeah.
thank you. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Alejandra, do you mind telling them where they can find you?
Sure. I have Twitter and Instagram. I mean, we already gave them out last time, and it was a whole thing to spell them out. So, can we just put them on the description somewhere, or you know, leave it as a mystery?
Yeah, ALECALLMEPEZZA, right?
Yep.
There we go. Ale Come Pesa. So go and check it out. And go and follow her. She's an incredible person, and she loves movies so much, just like everybody here on this podcast. And we will see her for next season when she does West Side Story. But Alejandra, I hope you enjoyed your time on the Cinema Condition.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah. And for somebody who's done this only her second time, I gotta say that you are a natural.
Yeah, I love talking, so I don't really have a problem with that.
I know. That's why I'm pretty sure this episode could have been longer, but yeah, you got two big chatterboxes here. But we will go ahead and see you guys next week when we finally conclude season 1 of the Cinema Condition, when we invite my friend and fellow cinephile, AK, to discuss Martin Scorsese's controversial 1988 film, The Last Temptation of Christ. We'll see you guys next week.